So, what is the one PhD myth that you want to discuss today?
I think so. When I first wanted to apply for a PhD program or even got into a PhD program, people around me, at least the ones who weren't thinking about PhD in their life, so they were like, "Oh, so do you want to become a professor? Is that why do you want to do a PhD?" So I feel like that is the most common, at least in my case, or through my experience. I felt like people think when you do a PhD, it's to become a professor, or you just want to be in academia and things like that. I think that has to change, because a lot of PhD students, they don't end up being a professor or just stay in academia. There
Mhm.
are so many other jobs out there for PhDs, like with PhD qualifications. And I think students or the new students should not think that PhD is just to become a professor or be like in academia, or just for research purposes and things. There are so many other things you can do with a PhD. So I think that is a myth. I feel like that is still a myth among so many people who think, oh, okay, so PhD, so you just, do research and that's it. There's a lot more to PhD, I feel.
Mhm. I agree with that. In fact, like if you have to, like if you do your PhD, you can also enter into industry, as you mentioned. We can also just be researchers and not teach. So there's a difference between being a researcher and being a professor,
Mm-hmm.
which people don't often tend to distinguish between, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. And if given a chance to decide again, would you still choose to do a PhD?
I think it's yes. I would still decide to do a PhD. I think that is why I'm still a PhD student here.
Mm.
um, yeah, it is. It is a rewarding experience. I think it's because I also like research and I like the topic that I'm working on. So if I want to learn more on that, I feel like a PhD is what will teach you more. And it's not just the topic and things. When you go through PhD, it's like you're learning a lot of other new things about life in general. Like, how do you
Yeah.
handle so many things at the same time management, like taking care of yourself while you also do so much research and things. So it's a balance, and I think I would still say yes. PhD, yes, I would do it again.
Mm-hmm. Good one. And what are the advantages and then disadvantages of doing a PhD? So I know there are many, but in your view, what could be like one or two advantages and one or two disadvantages of doing a PhD?
So advantages is, when you're doing a PhD, obviously you're being an expert in a field. And I think if you want to be an expert, this is the best thing for you to do. Like a master's may just give you like something in between. Like you'll just be just above an undergrad, but you'll also not be a complete expert. You'll have all the skills to like work maybe, but you'll also not be able to completely say something for sure. Okay, this is what this is about. I feel like a PhD would give you a better knowledge on a particular field. So I think that's an advantage. And I think apart from the topic, being a PhD or doing a PhD would teach you a lot of patience. I think that's something a lot of people lack in this day and age. And I think being a PhD student teaches you how to be patient. Hopefully, that will continue even after that.
Well, I guess 4 year of conditioning is sufficient enough to do that. Like,
I think so. So I think you will be patient, and I think that's a good. I think that's an advantage, and it gives you enough time to think what you want to do next. You might want, like, you may not want to just go in one direction. Maybe you started with, okay, I just want to maybe like work as a research scientist. That's it. That was your goal initially when you started PhD. But throughout the program, being exposed to different conferences, or you meet new people, you meet people, other people in your field and what they do, you'll find out more about what they do. I think all those things, small things, will help shape your career, and it gives you enough time. PhD gives you enough time to think about all that and reflect. So I think that's an advantage. Now, disadvantages, it's a long process. So unless you are here like, okay, I am ready for this long process and I want to do this that way, it's fine. If that is the case, then it's fine. But if you want something quick, PhD is not the thing to do. It's not going to be so fast. You need to know it's going to take time. I think the time is what is a disadvantage. It takes that long. And with PhD, sometimes you also can be labeled as an overqualified like person in your field. They might actually, like, for example, in a normal industrial job, they might consider like, okay, you're a PhD student, or you just finished your PhD, so you might expect a higher package, but we also don't want that much work. So sometimes you might feel overqualified. You might be considered overqualified for the job that you're looking for. So that can sometimes be a disadvantage as a PhD, because then it's like taking away your opportunity to like get that job, right? Because just because you have that degree. So that can be a disadvantage. But then again, so before you get into this field, weigh all those options and then decide if you want a PhD or not for that job that you're applying to. I think that's the way to go about.
Yes, you brought very relevant points here, which we tend to like neglect. Yeah, and then also like I mean, it's something to think about well before that you mentioned. I really like that point because it's not that you start thinking about these after you start your PhD. It's something that you think about before you start your PhD, and it's good to like even take a break to realize for yourself what you want rather than jumping into something and committing for like 4 years and
Yeah,
then yeah suffering through that. Yeah,
that's
it could be a good experience. I mean, not all PhDs are bad. Like, I mean, there will be times where everybody faces this bad thing, but we do have like those rewarding experiences. And I cannot like literally emphasize more on the fact that those rewarding experiences, although they are less, but they weigh more as compared to all those failures and yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Mhm. Okay, and what is something non-academic that your PhD has taught? I know in your case it's definitely patience already, but is there something more that you want to share here about networking? Yes,
Yes. I was going to say networking, but
I
you
read your mind. I'm a neuroscientist.
said it. So, yeah, patience and networking. But apart from that, I think definitely maintaining that, even networking is one thing, but maintaining those contacts is another. So, like, okay, one day you just go and network with people, but that doesn't mean everything ends there. Like, okay, so you've met a few people. What after that? I think
Yeah.
PhD definitely like teaches you to like keep in contact with those people, like go behind them. Okay, get what you want. And things like that. Like, for example, if you have like committee members, you want them to like look at your work. They'll be busy with their own stuff, but that's not the thing. So you have to keep going behind them, be like, okay, I need some advice on this topic or whatever. So I think pursuing what you want in a lot of different sense, PhD teaches you that. I think, yeah, I feel
Nice.
that is definitely something. But I would say the most important thing is networking. PhD, during conferences you attend, or even like maybe any collaborators that you have through your lab, all those people are important, because that's how you network. And I think eventually for your future or your career, even to be in academia, you still need network.
Mhm. Yeah.
So that is a very important thing, and I think that's what PhD taught me in my case.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I would agree with that too. Yeah, networking is so important in science. And we're talking about all this. So there is not like a gold standard that who should do a PhD, but still there are certain things that are demanded of. Like there are certain traits that people kind of have when they are like, being selected for PhD positions. So, whom do you think should do a PhD? Like as a person, what are the qualities that they should possess, or
So
or what they should have in mind? Yeah.
I think so. One thing is definitely knowing what you want. So if their like profile reflects, okay, this is what they want, or this is the track they want to go in, then
Mhm.
I think that means it gives them it shows that they have a good direction. So that's one trait. And I think second thing is they should have proven skills, like okay, somewhere
Yeah.
they have done some sort of like research, or at least had some exposure to research, so they know what they're getting into. So okay, so this person knows what this person is getting into. If he does this, then he knows that okay, he has to do all these different things in research. Is he
Mhm.
capable, or is he or she capable of doing that? So I think those kind of small skills, if they can show that, I think that's the other thing about that's the other thing to keep in mind when they're applying, or when we look at someone's profile and okay, so this person has
Mhm.
this. And apart from that, I think yeah, I think it's just this one mostly. It's mostly like what you want to do and your skills. That should just reflect your SOP or whatever that you write to for your application. That should just reflect how motivated you are on,
Mhm.
how keen
Yes.
you are on doing this, and what do you see after this? Like, what exactly do you want with this PhD? What's your goal? Like, not just doing PhD. Yes, you got into a program, you finished your PhD, and then what? So maybe at least have like a maybe not like okay, now you know everything about what you want to do after 5 years. Even now we don't know.
No, we don't. And I don't know until when we don't know that. So.
So I'm not saying they should know all that, but it's also like you have some, at least a skeletal plan or some vague idea of what you want to achieve after PhD. So I think that is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really like the motivation factor of it because I somehow rely on that, and I have personally realized that that is something that keeps you going. Because if you're motivated during your PhD, then you would also find other ways to network. You will find other ways to improve yourself, to grow as a person, not just as a scientist, but I mean, it's just your overall development. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is going more into like the leisure activities now. So, what do you do in your free time when you're not working on your PhD?
So I like to make stuff out of like waste. So when I
Oh,
get, yeah, so when I get groceries, I get these paper bags and I like kind of make stuff out of those paper bags. Or like if I have like some cardboard lying around here and there, I use
mhm.
that. So I made like this phone stand, which is like there, but okay, it's just like a phone stand where I can like watch movies by putting my phone on it. It's like stuff like that, small things like that. So I do that sometimes. Otherwise, like when it's not winter, I try to like meet friends, but now obviously it's like this is a time where no one can meet anyone. But usually if it's like summer, we go out for ice creams and things. So I meet my friends, hang out with them, things like that. Or I like to travel. Sometimes I meet my other friends in other parts of the country. Like there are like a few of us here, right? So
Yeah,
I go there, go to their place, or they come to my place, or we go
that's
to
nice.
different place. So those sort of things. And recently I started like I'm planning to start a blog, so I'm like
Uh,
working towards that. Hopefully it'll work. I don't know, like it's my first time like trying to make a blog. So I'm just thinking because I like to write things sometimes. And yeah, so that's a new thing that I just found out. Maybe I should just try or like explore that thing, that hobby. Apart
yeah.
from that, I read books, and yeah, this is how I spend my time.
Well, we also don't have much time, like free time, but still.
We
Uh,
don't. Yeah. So it's all these happens like over a long period of time. Like whenever I'm free, whenever we get some time, right? It's not so easy, but Yeah, the little time that I get, I try to
Yeah,
be
it could be just
productive.
5 minutes that you spend like reading 1 page, 2 pages of a novel, or yeah.
Yeah.
True. And I would say I really want to address this question. So, what is your take on mental health and PhD? Like, this is literally one thing that we want to talk about through this episode and also through this whole series because this is very relevant to our own mental health. And yeah.
Yeah, so I think it is very important to understand that PhD program does not come easy. Uh,
Mhm.
like I mentioned, one of the points was imposter syndrome. So you can easily feel like, okay, I'm not made for this. I cannot be a researcher. It's like any small thing, like anything that can go wrong in your experiment, and you don't get what you expect. Then you might like for it if it happens at least like for a few days together, then you will be like, am I really a researcher? Do I know what I'm doing and things like that? So that is you need to understand that the reason you're here in the program is because you are capable,
Mhm.
and I think you just have to be patient. So that is one key issue that every PhD student faces. Even I've actually thought, okay, do I actually like I mean, am I like cut out for this? Am I even a researcher? I've asked questions like this in my life before. Like
Trust
when
me, I also went through this, and that's why I created the video also about this to how to overcome this because I was, in fact, I started suffering from it since I would say in the first month of my PhD. So,
yeah, it's very easy
and then
because that's when you actually be like, okay, now I have to do something, but you also are like learning what to do, right?
yes, and I think if you're like a very much like a growth oriented person, then you start and also somebody who wants to see the actions, like I mean some results
Yeah.
very quickly, then you can't tolerate the fact that you will get your degree after 4 years. So you need to actually like settle through what you achieve at small time points and then celebrate it to realize that you will have something big at the end of it and you are capable of that.
Yeah.
So by the end of like I guess 3 4 months, I realized that I have to do something for this, and yeah, I mean now it works perfectly fine, but it did take some
It
time,
takes,
and
yeah.
yeah.
It takes time. So that's one thing that I think we are still learning to handle that. I think we can
Mhm.
still feel this some other time again. So,
Oh, definitely. Wait
yeah,
for the wait for the third
it
and
just
fourth.
keeps coming now and then. It's like it's just going to be there for a while, and at least until we are done with this. So
True.
yeah, I think when that happens, it's just that we have to understand, or we have to talk to someone who can reassure us that okay, no, you're not. It's not like you're not a researcher or anything. It's just that maybe you've done this way or something, and maybe try this thing. Maybe that will work for you. So I think it's important that you have someone to talk to, have a support system, even in the field, so that they know what you're doing wrong, so they can help you with that. And even outside the field, like talk to some people and get that thing out of you. So I think that's very important. And apart from that, it's very hard to, since PhD doesn't give you time for many things, so it's very easy that like it happens that you don't eat properly or you don't sleep properly. Sleep is very, very important, even though we all like kind of like, okay, we have to work, we just think, okay, we have to work or finish this today, and we end up like not sleeping enough. I think sleep and having good eating habits is very important even during PhD. It is easy to like not go through, like not do any of that, because we get very into our program or our research that we don't realize what time it is and things. So I feel like when you eat and sleep well, I think that itself can help a little bit, like keep you in like, okay, in a good condition. You won't feel too bad or stressed.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I would
that's
just
what.
add maybe a little bit of exercise there too.
Yeah, exercise.
Because then most of the time we're just sitting and it's more of a sedentary lifestyle, I would say. Most of the times And even though like when we have to conduct experiments, we're standing, but it's not the same type of calorie burning. So probably like a little bit of spending time in the nature, and that really helps. Not right now, not with the context of what we are undergoing right now. That comes with a disclaimer, but later when things get back to normal. So
Yes, yeah, it's important, and having, yeah, definitely, like have some time for yourself also. Have a work-life balance. I think all that should help with dealing with any stress. Stress happens, PhD comes with stress, but you also need to know how to balance it. So I think
yes, I
that's,
mean, I would say it's a way to actually balance it. I mean, it's a way to learn how to balance
yeah,
stress.
yeah,
So it's just a challenging situation that we are putting us through, and we have to just get back. I mean, we have to come out of it with, yeah, hopefully we'll be able to manage it. We can't comment much because we are in the beginning. So yeah,
yeah.
we'll see this after 3, 4 years.
Exactly. Yeah, we have to see it after everything.
And so this is the last question of today's episode. So, what is one message that you want to share with the people who are watching this video?
Okay, I think I've already given so many messages that now I'll have to just be like, give a comprehensive.
Yes, like that's what we do in our presentations. You just have to like conclude right now.
Exactly. Like, it's like a conclusion. So, I think don't be like, after listening to all this, just don't feel like, oh, this is so
Don't
much,
freak out.
so much. Don't freak out. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Don't freak out. It's not, it is tough, but it's like any job is tough. It's not like whatever you do apart from PhD is easy. Everything has its own like hardships. uh,
Mhm.
PhD, yes, it's a little bit extra because you are also into research, and you're like focusing on just one topic and things like that. And in your age, other people in your age might be working and they might be doing well, like they might be getting paid better and all that, but that's not, I mean, that shouldn't deter you from doing a PhD if this is what you want. So I think know what PhD comes with, but also like completely don't be discouraged. It's a rewarding experience if you really are for it, like in it and for it.
Yeah, it comes back to your main, the highlight that know what you want. So
Yes.
we
Yes.
started the episode with that, and I think it's good to end that with that. And yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. I think it was quite interesting to catch up through this platform.
Yeah. I
Hope we keep in
enjoyed
touch. What?
I enjoyed this conversation.
Same here. Yeah, it was so nice. Like after I don't know how many years, after 4 years.
4 years, bro. Yeah, I think so. I think that was the last time we spoke. Like once
2016.
we did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably messages? I don't know.
Yes, maybe. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.